Hi, I'm Sarah from Floral, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make a beautiful floral arrangement just like this guy here that you can use to adorn your wedding signage or really any signage that you have at your wedding. So keep watching and I'm going to show you step by step on how to make this. So for supplies today, I've got my chicken wire. I've got this steel strapping, which I found at the plumbing section of the hardware store. And then of course I have my pruners. In terms of flowers, I've got a selection of flowers here. I have some spray mums, some disbud momokos. These ones here are spider mums. I've got hypericum berries, and then I've got a couple different types of greenery. I've got some bay leaf, some salal, and some ferns. So now we know what supplies we're doing. We're gonna start on the mechanics of how to actually attach these flowers to our sign. So what I've done here is create a cylinder out of the chicken wire. So you would take your chicken wire, pull out a section of it. You'll need tin snips to actually cut this. And then you just roll the chicken wire to make a cylinder. And then you'll take your steel strapping. You're gonna need tin snips to cut this. You cut a section of the steel strapping. And then using screws, as you can see in here, I just took the steel strapping and put screws on either side of the chicken wire. And so then that's holding this chicken wire cylinder in place really well. There's other ways you could do this if you can't find steel strapping, but I found that this keeps the chicken wire cylinder in place really well. So we have the mechanics in place now, so let's start actually filling it in with our flowers and greenery. So whenever I am making an arrangement, whether it's a sign arrangement or an arch or whatever I'm making, I always start with my greenery first. So I have a couple different types of greenery here. I've got this bay leaf, and as you can see, it's got leaves all the way down the stem. So I'm gonna pull these off because I need to insert the stem into the chicken wire, and the leaves will just make it hard to actually shove it in place. So I'm gonna take my greenery, and I'm just going to find a spot in the chicken wire and just shove it in. You can see it's rotating a little bit here, but once we keep adding in things, that will stop because there'll be more space to actually, or more, structure of the greenery to hold it in place. This one here is a huge bay leaf, so don't be afraid to just give stuff a haircut if it's not suiting your vibe. So let's make it a little bit shorter here. And then let's stick it in to our chicken wire. Again, just nestling it in place. These shorter ones I'm not going to throw away because I might want them at the end. Let's add in some salal. Salal, like this guy here, can have multiple stems to it, and I don't want something this big, so it's time for a haircut time. Cutting it into smaller pieces. And I'm also going to assess my salal and see if there's any sort of leaves like this one here that are a little bit chewed up. I'm just going to pull those off so I have only the good ones remaining. So if you can imagine, maybe you thought this already, I'm building in chicken wire. How will this stay hydrated? And the answer is it will not be hydrated because the chicken wire doesn't have a water source to it. So the greenery that I'm using here, like the bay leaf and the salal, is super long lasting. So I'm not worried about it being hydrated, but my flowers I would be a little bit worried about. So I would put my flowers into my grid as close to my event as possible. Or the other thing I might do is put water picks on them just to make sure that they have access to water. So I'm just going to keep adding in my greenery. I'm not filling it totally full because I want to stick in flowers in here as well. I'm kind of rounding the corner here, adding in a couple different types of bay leaf. At the end, I'm going to go backwards like that, so that way I don't see the chicken wire that's at the end. And then just continue filling in the chicken wire the whole way here. The ones that are on this side, I'm building upwards like this. And then I'm going to end up meeting the two meeting right here. So like here, and then where they meet, I'm going to need to take a shorter piece and just shove it in like this to hide that intersection where the two were meeting. When you're filling out the greenery, just make sure that you're mindful of where you put the different types of greenery so you don't end up with it being unbalanced with just one type of greenery in one section and then an abrupt shift to the other type of greenery. Let's just keep adding in some more of this greenery. So I am pretty happy with the greenery spread here. I want to add in some of this fern to give it kind of a bit of a West Coast feel. Same idea, pulling off the leaves at the bottom so that way I have a way to stick this fern in. And just giving everything kind of a once over to make sure that if there's any parts that don't look good, that I just pull those off. And then just shoving these into the chicken wire. You can see now that I've got more greenery in here, the chicken wire is actually quite sturdy and is actually holding my greenery in actually quite well. I don't want to fill this up too much because I've still got all these beautiful flowers to come. So you can even go a little less, knowing that you can always add in greenery after if you decide that it needs a little bit more to it. I am happy now with my greenery setup. Let's add in some flowers. So I'm going to start with my bigger blooms first. This here is my spider mum. And I'm going to nestle it in there. You can always cut the stems shorter, but they will not regrow. So be really thoughtful before you cut them and maybe even try it out before you cut. See, try that out. Too long for my liking. So then I'll just give it a little haircut. There you go. These, I'll mention it once more. There's no water source for these guys. So I'm going to do this as close to my event for the flowers. Okay, I am going to add in some other types of mums as well. These momokos are super fun. I love the tint that's in them. They are dyed, so that's why you have the cool blue hints of color in with them. And I just love having all these varieties of shapes and color. So that's a way to make your arrangements look more luxe and elevated, is by having all these different textures and shapes. So even though these are obviously both purple, they're a little bit different shades of purple, and so that really makes your arrangement look more elevated and more high level than if you just did all purple. For my accent piece, I'm going to use hypericum berries. And the reason I'm using these is I want to have, like I mentioned, the variety of textures and shapes. So pulling off these kind of ugly leaves, hypericum is known for having kind of ugly leaves. And then I'm just going to nestle these throughout to just give the eye something that's cool looking texture-wise in my arrangement. I only have a few of these today to put in my arrangement, and that's totally fine. You don't need a ton of things. It's just more about having the variety. And as you can see, I've been doing this for a while and I still go back and think, no, did I really want to put it there? And I just move it around. So it's really all about experimentation and just figuring out how things look best. And there is absolutely no shame in doing things more than once. Okay, my hypericum is looking super fun. And then my last flower that I'm going to add in is these cool little spray mums. So my spray mums have a lot of flowers on them, and sometimes some of them break. So I'll just take the broken ones off. Sometimes there's really little ones. Don't throw these away. They're perfect for boutonnieres or corsages. So I'm just going to put these off to the side, and then I'll add in this spray mum. So if I'm feeling like it's too big for the arrangement, I can always pull off some of these smaller blooms, keep them for my corsage for later. And then that way I have a bit more of a small bloom rather than that really big look that comes with all those spray mums. I am loving how much texture there is. I'm using 3 different types of mums, and mums are so great because they are affordable and long lasting, and they come in so many colors. And even though these are all mums, you can tell they all look different because they're all different varieties, and it just makes it look so cool to have all these varieties and how they really all come together once you put them into this arrangement. So I'm just gonna take a minute here and just keep adding in all my flowers, and then taking a step back every once in a while just to see if things are looking the way I want it to. Sometimes it's hard to actually tell, like when you're facing it up so close. So take a step back so that way you can really get a real visual on how it's looking, and that if you're liking how it's going so far. So I have all my flowers in place now, and I took a step back to take a look at what it looks like from afar. And I'm just gonna add in a few more pieces of greenery in the places that I feel like it's a little bit lacking. You could always add in more, so make sure to take your time and really just assess what you're building to see, does it need more? Sometimes I even will like leave it, have a coffee, come back, because sometimes you just need that little bit of a break to get a second eye on it. Sometimes you're your own worst critic if you just keep looking at it. You might keep building and building, and when you actually could have called it a little bit sooner. So let's just add in a few pieces more of greenery in the spots where it is missing. So I have now finished my sign. So I hope you guys learned how to make a sign like this using chicken wire as the armature, and then my variety of flowers, which are the Disbud spiders. I've got the spray mums, the momokos, hypericum. I've got salal and bay leaf and a little bit of fern. So this came together and really looks super amazing and has kind of that West Coast springtime vibe. So let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.